Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. A gunman charged a security checkpoint at the White House Correspondents' Dinner Saturday night at the Washington Hilton, exchanging gunfire with law enforcement before being subdued and taken into custody. President Trump and other senior administration officials were abruptly evacuated from the ballroom as Secret Service agents swarmed the venue, and some attendees ducked under tables. The suspect has been identified as 31-year-old Cole Thomas Allen from Torrance, California. He'd checked into the hotel the day before, traveling by train from Los Angeles to Chicago to Washington, D.C. Allen's expected to be formally charged in court today. He reportedly left behind a written manifesto in which he stated he wanted to target officials in the Trump administration. In his so-called manifesto, the suspected gunman does not mention President Trump by name, but writes, quote, "I'm a citizen of the United States of America. What my representatives do reflects on me, and I am no longer willing to permit a pedophile, rapist, and traitor to coat my hands with his crimes," unquote. In an interview with 60 Minutes, President Trump became defensive when host Norah O'Donnell read an excerpt of the suspect's manifesto.
Do you think he was referring to you?
Excuse me. I'm not a pedophile. You read that crap from some sick person. I got associated with all stuff that has nothing to do with me. I was totally exonerated. Your friends on the other side of the plate are the ones that were involved with, let's say, Epstein or other things. But I said to myself, you know, I'll do this interview and they'll probably, I read the manifesto, you know, he's a sick person, but you should be ashamed of yourself reading that, because I'm not any of those things.
Mr. President,
and I
these
was
are
never,
the gunman's words.
Excuse me, you shouldn't be reading that on 60 Minutes. You're a disgrace.
President Trump quickly moved to use the attack to promote the massive new ballroom he's constructing on the White House grounds, posting on Truth Social Sunday morning, "This event would never have happened with the militarily top-secret ballroom currently under construction at the White House. It cannot be built fast enough," he said. The Justice Department also used the shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner to try to pressure the National Trust for Historic Preservation to drop their lawsuit against Trump's $400 million ballroom project. Assistant Attorney General Brett Shumate gave the trust until 9 a.m. today to dismiss its lawsuit, writing in a letter that the ballroom, quote, "will ensure the safety and security of the president for decades to come and prevent future assassination attempts on the president at the Washington Hilton." Meanwhile, on Sunday, 9 people were injured in a mass shooting near the campus of the University of Indiana, Bloomington. Ceasefire talks between the U.S. and Iran collapsed over the weekend. President Trump abruptly canceled a planned trip to Pakistan by Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and his son-in-law Jared Kushner, posting the decision on Truth Social minutes after Pakistani officials announced that the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi had left Islamabad. Araghchi traveled today to Moscow to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin to discuss the ceasefire negotiations. Axios is reporting Iran gave the U.S. a new proposal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and end the war, with nuclear negotiations postponed for a later stage. Meanwhile, Reuters reports an internal Pentagon email has outlined options for punishing NATO allies the Trump administration believes failed to support the U.S. operations in the Iran war, including suspending Spain from the alliance. Lebanon's health ministry reports Israeli strikes killed 14 people and wounded 37 others on Sunday, including 2 children. Despite the U.S.-brokered ceasefire, the Israeli military also ordered residents to evacuate 7 towns north of the Litani River beyond the so-called buffer zone Israeli forces have occupied. Meanwhile, Hezbollah said it had attacked Israeli troops inside Lebanon as well as the rescue force that came to evacuate them. 1 Israeli soldier was killed and 6 more wounded. More than 2,500 people have been killed in Israeli strikes across Lebanon since March 2nd, including 177 children and 100 medics, according to Lebanon's health ministry. More than 1.2 million people, nearly a fifth of Lebanon's population, have been displaced. In Gaza, Israeli forces killed at least 12 Palestinians Friday, including 8 people killed when Israeli forces struck a police vehicle in Khan Yunis. A separate attack in Gaza City killed 2 police officers. 2 others were killed in the bombing of a house in Beit Lahia in northern Gaza. Since the U.S.-brokered ceasefire last year, Israel's killed at least 984 Palestinians. This is Ala Jaber. His brother was killed in an Israeli attack on Friday.
They should find a solution. Enough. They should find a solution. Where's the new government? Where is the new government? Where is it? You hear of 5, 10 martyrs every day. Where? The Israelis advance on us, fire and projectiles, and we are living in the east of Gaza, close to death. Where should we go?
The U.S. Justice Department said Friday it'll use firing squads and single drug lethal injections to kill condemned federal prisoners as it seeks to ramp up and expedite capital punishment. It's also planning to impose new restrictions on the ability of death row prisoners to seek clemency or pardons, along with a regulation designed to cut years off the federal appeals process for state death penalty cases. At the Vatican, Pope Leo reiterated the Catholic Church's opposition to capital punishment on the same day the Trump administration announced its plans to expand state-sanctioned killings.
In this regard, we affirm that the dignity of the person is not lost even after various serious crimes are committed. Furthermore, effective systems of detention can be and have been developed that protect citizens, while at the same time do not completely deprive those who are guilty of the possibility of redemption.
Later in the broadcast, we'll speak with Sister Helen Prejean, the renowned anti-death penalty activist. We'll speak to her in Chicago, where Pope Leo comes from. The Board of Immigration Appeals, BIA, has issued a ruling that makes it easier for the Trump administration to deport people with DACA. That's Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. The new precedent decision by a 3-judge panel outlined DACA can no longer guarantee deportation relief for thousands of people. The BIA operates within the Department of Justice. The ruling came in the case of Catalina Xochitl Santiago, a DACA recipient and immigration rights advocate who was released from an ICE jail last October after being detained for about 2 months. The targeting of people with DACA has intensified under Trump's second term, with nearly 300 DACA recipients arrested last year, according to the Texas Tribune. In Colorado, an Egyptian mother and her 5 children were detained by federal immigration agents for several hours Saturday, less than 2 days after a federal judge ordered their release from the only U.S. family detention center where they'd been imprisoned for 10 months. Hayam al-Gamal was arrested when she complied with a requirement she check in with an ICE office in Denver. Her lawyer says she and her children were put aboard a deportation flight, but were removed from the plane before it could leave the U.S. after a federal court granted an emergency injunction. The El-Gamal family has already endured the longest-known family detention under President Trump's second term at the South Texas Family Residential Center in Dilley, where they say their mental health suffered as they endured abhorrent medical care, rotten food, and a disregard for their religious freedom to practice Islam, they said. The Department of Homeland Security has given guidance to immigration officers instructing them to deny green cards to immigrants who burn the U.S. flag, criticize the State of Israel, or participate in pro-Palestinian campus protests. That's according to the New York Times, citing internal DHS training documents which have not been previously reported. The guidance discourages officers from granting permanent residency to people with a history of, quote, endorsing, promoting, or supporting anti-American views or anti-Semitic terrorism, ideologies, or groups, unquote. One example of questionable speech provided to officers is social media post that declares, quote, stop Israeli terror in Palestine, unquote, and shows the Israeli flag crossed out. In Washington, D.C., a federal appeals court ruled Trump's claims of an invasion in order to shut down asylum requests at the U.S.-Mexico border is unlawful. ACLU attorney Lee Gallant, who argued the case, said, quote, this decision puts an end to the inhumane Trump policy of sending people, including families with little children, back to horrific danger without even a hearing, unquote. Trump issued the proclamation on his first day back in office. The U.S. military said Sunday it carried out another strike on a boat in the eastern Pacific Ocean, killing at least 3 people. U.S. Southern Command shared a video of a boat bursting into flames as it moved through open international waters. The Trump administration once again claimed the vessel was carrying drugs without providing any evidence. Since September, the Pentagon says it's killed at least 185 people in strikes on boats in the Caribbean and Pacific. The attacks have been widely condemned as illegal. The Mexican government said Saturday the 2 U.S. CIA agents killed in a car crash in northern Mexico after a drug raid earlier this month were not authorized to participate in such operations in the country. The car crash prompted an investigation into the agent's role, with Mexico's Ministry of Security saying in a statement, quote, Mexican law is clear. It does not permit the participation of foreign agents in operations within the national territory, unquote. 2 Mexican law enforcement officers were also killed in the crash. In Ukraine, Russian drone and missile attacks killed at least 16 people over the weekend, including 9 people killed in Dnipro, where a Russian onslaught sparked fires across the city and partly destroyed several blocks of homes and businesses. Dozens of people were left wounded. This is a 74-year-old resident of Dnipro who narrowly avoided death when his apartment building was bombed.
Can you imagine the force of the explosion? It was so loud. I was laying down when the first blast went off. Debris started raining down on me, and the balcony was blown away. I had just grabbed a cigarette and gone into the toilet, and the last blast, it went off right next to me, and everything came crashing down. If I hadn't gone to the toilet, I don't know if I'd still be alive.
Meanwhile, Russian officials say a Ukrainian attack on the Russian-occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant killed a worker. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, said it had launched an investigation and reiterated that such attacks, quote, endanger nuclear safety and must not take place, unquote. In Mali, armed Tuareg separatists joined fighters with an al-Qaeda-linked affiliate in a massive coordinated attack on the capital Bamako and 4 other cities Saturday. Amidst reports of explosions and gunfire at Bamako's international airport, officials reported Mali's defense minister, Sadio Kamara, was killed when an apparent suicide attacker set off a truck bomb at his residence. Mali's military ruler, General Assimi Goïta, was reportedly moved to a secure location after his home was targeted. He has yet to make a public statement. And Maine's Democratic governor, Janet Mills, has vetoed what would have been the nation's first statewide moratorium on large AI data centers. Mills said in a statement she'd blocked the landmark bill because it did not include an exception on a data center in the town of Jay at the site of a vacant mill that shuttered in 2023. Maine's data center moratorium had drawn strong bipartisan support and was backed by Maine residents who'd raised alarm about the potential threats to the environment and higher energy costs. At least a half a dozen states, including New York and Michigan, have considered similar measures. To see our coverage of this story with the sponsor of the Maine legislation, go to democracynow.org. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.